Hi everyone, my name is Lesley and this webinar is for anyone who is new to Ancestry or wants to learn about how to start a tree and search and explore our key collections. I'm going to walk you through the whole Ancestry website, give you tips on building out your family tree, and to make the most out of your searches and finding collections. Please put your questions in the comments field and I'll answer as many as possible during the webinar. You'll be able to view this webinar in the video section of our Facebook page afterwards. And I'm happy to report that Ancestry is making available all of the Canadian censuses and voters lists, birth, marriage, and death records, and immigration and travel collections for Canada for 24 hours afterwards. So let's get started. Just share my screen. So starting your family tree. Based on experience, I've got some 10 easy steps for you to explore. First of all, go on a treasure hunt. Locate all the family documents and information that you can find and interview family members. Let them know you're starting your family tree, you want to learn more, and if you can get to the eldest living family member and interview them, that would be fantastic. Ask them about their lives, ask them about their grandparents. Where did they come from? What kind of stories do they remember? And in fact, we have on Ancestry, through our support page, if you type in questions or starting your family tree, we can help you out with those questions. Create a family tree online. This is free to do on Ancestry. You don't need to be a paid subscriber in order to start your tree. And the family tree online will be the place that you can organize and keep all of the information that you found. Educate yourself. Get a good research guide, any maps of the area. They'll all give you some clues and hints about what's available in the area that you're researching and give you context to the history of what might have affected your ancestors. Develop a plan. Get a good plan of who you're going to research first. Maybe it's your great-grandfather or your great-great-grandparents and all of their family. So just so long as you develop a plan based on the research guide and those available records, that will manage your expectations as well as what's available online and offline. Record everything, all of your research notes, anything like notes to yourself. I'll show you where you can put those things, but as you add records through Ancestry to your family tree, you'll be able to go back and make notes on those, as well as be able to easily get to that source material. Search and confirm historical records. Looking in historical records will give you clues as to maiden names and family members and occupations and historical events that would have affected your family, and also be able to get to the true story and behind what your ancestors were going through. Not everything is online. So number 8, research in libraries, archives, and museums. It's very important to keep in mind that you might have to visit those or at least reach out to them to help you with your research. Networking and collaboration. Ancestry is such a great place to do that. We're able to connect you with other people who are researching the same names in your family tree and also the same places, hooking up, connecting into those family trees and being able to collaborate with those tree owners is so wonderful, to share information and pictures and documents that you might not have or be aware of. And finally, join a genealogy society. They're the boots on the ground in the area that you're researching. Google them, see if there is a genie society in that area so that you can find out what they've done, what they can help you with. Perhaps they've indexed records that aren't freely available anywhere else as well. And they also hold great meetings. They do conferences where you can learn all kinds of things. And so you can avail yourself of the benefits of joining a genealogy society. When you come to Ancestry as a new person, somebody who doesn't have a membership or a member account, even the free member account, you will come across this page on Ancestry. The first two buttons that you'll see is exploring your Ancestry DNA. And right now I can see that there's a $50 sale on that you might want to explore. And also searching billions of records to discover your story and how to get started. You might want to click on those, but I recommend you look in the upper right-hand corner here under Sign In, and this will allow you just to open up the Sign In boxes. And if you do have an email address or a username attached to Ancestry, you can do that. Or if you're not a member yet, you can sign up today for free. And it will pop out a create account box that'll just ask for your first and last name, your email address, and a password. And this will allow you to be a free Ancestry member account, and it will allow you to access all the free stuff that's up on our site. And we have a lot of information that perhaps we've worked with genealogy societies and governments to index records. Those are available up for free. You can always do your tree for free as well. And so you need to create an account in order to see all that stuff. When you come to Ancestry, in the upper left-hand corner here, we can see the tabs. These are what I call tabs: Trees, Search, DNA, Help, and Extras. And if you wanted to start a new tree, this is where you would go. Or if you've already created a tree, perhaps on a genealogy program, you can upload that GEDCOM file, which is that family tree program, and all the information that you've inputted in can be uploaded to Ancestry so that you can access it 24/7. When you start a new tree, it's going to ask you for some key information like your name and your age and your birthplace. And it's going to ask, what side do you want to start searching for? And this is really a step-by-step walkthrough on how to get you started. So I started out with Brian's tree, and I put that information in. And I just want to point out this section here: whenever you do put a location in, please make sure that the drop down or the type ahead feature, that you're picking the right area, that you're picking the right country and place, because there might be same place names throughout different areas, and it's important for you to do. And you click on Get Started. Then it's going to ask, okay, your father's name and his father's, so your grandparents' names, so that you can get searching as well. And then you click Search for Records, and Ancestry will pop up if you haven't already signed in with an email address and a password. We can create one for you. We don't ask for a credit card or anything like that. And basically you just press continue. What it does is Ancestry already has saved your tree and emailed your login information to you. And we've also given you, through our search results, based on even that little bit of information that you put in, we've given you records for all of the people that you put in. And so there's a great list of them. I have highlighted the marriages and the births that I would be interested if I was starting out. I would probably go to the marriage record since there are 2 people involved, and I would want to take a look at that. So I'm just going to preview that. It does say, gives you a hint on just the type of information that you can see in this record. Different records will give you different information. And you can view the record. You get one free record to view. And if you click on it, it will display the record here. Now, sometimes the handwriting is difficult to read. So on this left-hand side, it is pulling out that information and typed it out for us, that we can see that he was born in Verulam about 1883, and his marriage is on a certain date at a certain place. What's great about marriage records is that you, after a certain period of time, you will be able to see mothers' maiden names. So that can lead you back further. You can search out their marriages, find them on a census, and so on, which we'll be going into. If you wanted to save this record, this is where you're going to need a subscription. This is where viewing any historical records or saving them beyond this point, you're going to have to consider a free trial. We recommend a 14-day free trial where we hold whatever subscription package by your credit card for that 14 days. And we say, if you're interested in proceeding, then you'll be charged. If you're not interested, please let customer service know, and we will cancel the subscription. We have different packages available. We have Canada only. We have Canada plus the key records from around the world, like census and birth, marriage, and death records from the government. And we have World Deluxe, which works out to about $21 a month for 6 months. And this will allow you to see all of the historical records, all of the family trees, and connect with other members if you've purchased a subscription. During the 14-day free trial, I suggest you take a look and see what kind of success you're getting, and build out your tree as much as you can. And know that today, I did mention earlier, but for 24 hours, we are opening up some key records. So you might want to wait for your 14-day trial until you've finished looking. Let's start at taking a look at the Ancestry tabs, the Ancestry website. The first tab on the list is the home page, and this is the anchor for our website. And if you go up to ancestry.ca after you've logged in with your username and password, you will see these tabs along the top of the page. The home page is really where I spend a little bit of time investigating what's new and what's happening at Ancestry. And so you're going to be able to see all the new records, not only for Canada, but for those around the world that we've got brand new through our partnerships, and also updated collections as well. You'll see them in a list. What you can also do is customize your homepage to be what you want it to be, and including links. And I've got links to collections on Ancestry that I go to all the time, or I've looked up and I want to bookmark them, as well as offline. I can put those links in this section as well. Also, you have the facility to search from your homepage, but I'm going to recommend that you search from the search tab. We're just going to get to that in a minute. We have a trees tab. When you click on the trees tab, it's going to show you all of your family trees that you've got on Ancestry. We can only see one here for Brian because he just made it. And then at the bottom of whatever amount of trees you have, you can see create and manage trees. And if you want to go and create a new tree or manage the trees that you have, you can click on that. When you click on create and manage trees, you're going to see the trees that you've created, as well as the trees that have been shared with you. Now, one of the questions I get asked all the time, especially around DNA, is what should I do with my tree? Like, should I have one tree? I've got a tree for my mother, I've got a tree for my father, and I've got, I've got all these extra trees. And you're totally able to create as many trees as you want, but to get the full benefit out of something like DNA, it really should be starting with yourself and going backwards in time, and both on your father's and your mother's side. So regardless, is if you're living and your parent and your, maybe a parent is living, or you and your husband and your children, if you are starting with yourself on that tree, only you can see living people and the people that are invited to your tree with your knowledge. You're going to allow them to see living people. Ancestry will not allow living information to be shown to other people. In fact, if you were searching for me and my tree, you would never find me because I'm living. So it's not searchable, it's not available, and you can be rest assured that this privacy, we take privacy very seriously, and we have algorithmed out all the living information. So that's just a recommendation I have. You can have as many trees as you like, but I think you should stick with one tree for both sides of your family. When you click on the tree name from the list, you will open up in different views. Now, this particular view is called a pedigree view, and this is the icon on the left-hand side that indicates the sideways sort of grandparents, parents, grandparents, grandparents, great, 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 going back as far as I have entered them in. And you'll notice that some, if not all of them, are in capitals. And this indicates to me that I've confirmed that that's my lineage, that's my ancestor. And it really is helpful, especially when you've got families renaming children the same names, or they've got 12 kids. How are you going to remember with each generation which one out of the 12 is yours? So I always capitalize it so that I can find them and pick them out in a list of when I'm in family view. And that's the next view. The next icon is the family view. And this is the view of the parents and the siblings and so on. And so it goes backwards in time. And you simply click and drag the screen around in order to find out who you want to focus on. Your profile page for any person in your tree can be accessed by that either view. And in this case, from my pedigree view, if I just point to a person, up will pop this little card where I can click on the profile in order to get to all of their information. And this profile is just a wonderful tool for us to collect the information that we've added through Ancestry and ourselves. Perhaps we've uploaded our own events and our own documents here, but it's in one place. So the very top of this profile page shows the tree that you're looking at. And this is important to keep your eye on that tree, because if you're checking out other people's trees before you take on any of that information, you want to make sure that it is the correct tree. Also, it'll give your person's information, basic information. On the right-hand side, you'll have search, tools, and edit. It's very easy to search your family tree with by clicking on search here by that person's information, because it just takes out all the information that that you don't have to retype in order to get a search done. And also tools. These are all the tools here that are beneficial, and I like to have them right out. I can check off research tools, or if you want, you can go all the time to the different tools drop down. And then we have edit. And this means you can edit the information that you have put in based on that person. So you can do a quick edit, maybe change, add a name to her, maybe I forgot a middle name or something, maybe dates of birth or death or whatever I want to quickly edit relationships, and delete that person. This is the only place you can actually delete the person. Edit relationships is really important, especially now, nowadays that we've got multiple maybe significant people in their lives that we want to include in the tree, but they have different relationships. Maybe one is a parent that is biological, and another parent is the foster parent or the adopted parent, that kind of thing. And so you can remove these people. They're not removed from the tree, but they are just removed from that particular relationship. So down here, I've just given you an example that you can add an alternate father and mother, a spouse, or even a child in this Edit Relationships tab. Most of our time is going to be spent in the person profiles facts page. And so these are all of the facts on the left-hand side. This is like a timeline based on the sources that are in the middle that you've added through Ancestry. And you can see all the little lines are showing which documents this fact came from. And you can edit the fact, you can delete it, you can add notes to it. And this is, maybe I want to put a certificate number for the birth, just to prove that I did have a certificate, but I haven't actually added it through the sources here. I might want to leave a question note to myself and anybody else who has come across my public tree. So it's really a wonderful timeline that is based on the documents that you've added, and you can add your own events here as well. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to see the family. This is where you'll see parents, siblings, if you go to this little drop down, will also be displayed, the spouse and children, etc. And if you want to add somebody, maybe you didn't have a parent in there, or a spouse or a son or a daughter, a brother or a sister at this level, I can add those people at this level to the fact sheet. Also, you can see that I have little symbols here. The first one is notes, and this is where I can keep private notes. Nobody else can see these notes, and they could have been uploaded from another family history program, but they're always only viewable by an editor. And so I'm the editor of my tree. I'm going to be able to see them, and anybody else that I've invited to my tree as an editor. Then this is the comments tab, and the comments tab is a public facing tab. So people leave me notes about somebody. Maybe I've got the information wrong. Maybe they just want to reach out and make sure that I see it. I get it in an email that somebody has commented on somebody's profile. And also you can leave notes on their profile. So if you are wanting to communicate something, you can leave a note under comments. Also, we have this new feature here. It's called My Tree Tags. And this is where you can filter or go back and search by these tags to get to people who are in your tree. So I have interesting. I've made a custom tag called interesting. Maybe there's an interesting story I want to go back to, or need to confirm this person, or need to attach this person. I have also many duplicate ancestors that I'm just not sure where they fit in the tree, that particular person. So I want to put a tag on them that these are duplicate documents that belong to this person that I've organized. But you have different DNA tags, different life experience tags and relationship tags and status tags. And please go check those out when you look at your profile. And by the way, I have done a, it's called Spring Cleaning Your Family Tree. There's a lot more detail in my Ancestry Extra webinar that you can also find under the video section of our Facebook page. And there are other Ancestry Extra webinars as well. But check out for more information about your online trees and cleaning them up and some helpful hints there. In the gallery of a person's profile, this is where all of those records that we attached through Ancestry are. And they're there automatically. Plus, if we want to add our own, we go to the Add button where we can upload any photos that we have scanned in of our own documents that we found through our treasure hunt. We might want to create a story or upload a story that's in a Word document. This is where sometimes I have my research notes in a Word document that will appear in the gallery. And I have made so many finds from others, other trees. Their galleries have documents that are not obvious that they had scanned them in because they hadn't added them as an event or as a source document. And so it really pays to poke around other family trees galleries as well. And then we have hints. And hints is like your own research assistant, but it's a lot faster than a human could be. It really works for trees and historical records. And you are they identify that there are hints by this little green leaf. And at the beginning it shakes, but then it doesn't shake after a while. But if you click on those hints, it means that Ancestry has looked at the information you've input into that person's profile, and it goes out and searches any collections or family trees. We call these the golden databases or the bigger databases, not all of them, but the bigger ones. And we go and search for that, and Ancestry offers it to you to analyze and review. And so one day I noticed my third great grandfather had a document, a hint, and it was a burial, church burial. And I never knew where he was buried, but it was based on the information that I had plugged in the tree. I hit review, click on review, and it seems pretty good, but always view the original. And when I looked at the original, I could see he actually was living in the correct place, but I had no idea he was buried at another church, Temple Normanton in England, until I got that hint from Ancestry. And what you can do is say, yes, I want to attach this to my tree. Maybe it isn't appropriate and you want to say no, or maybe you want to take a look at it later. You can always go back to the hints on their profile page and pull it back up again. And they keep on coming as you add more and more people to your tree. Instantaneously, you'll get tree hints and record hints coming out for them through their leaves. Before you actually start your searching, I wanted to mention, as I mentioned before, that you need to get a good research guide. And so the research guides that we have on Ancestry, you can find through our Help tab, and we'll go to Support and type in research guides. And all of our research guides covering a number of subjects are there. There's also Ancestry Academy under the Extra tab, which you can watch a video. We have YouTube videos that might be useful for your education about searching in a specific place or a specific historical time period. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that each historical record has its own rules and regulations to do with privacy and access. and the dates that we are able to see these records, depending on whether it's federal, provincial, municipal, or personal records. They all have different rules within those departments. So you should know look at what's available up online, know what's available in original format and where to go to get them, and understand your rights to access. Just because it's not online doesn't mean it's not accessible. You might have to go the extra mile and apply for it through that government agency. For example, the military records for World War II. Ancestry, it's a federal record, and Ancestry has what is available were the World War II service files of the war dead from 1939 to 1947. So if they were in that time period and had passed away, had been killed in action, we are able to see their full service files. But Library and Archives Canada has the other files, so the later files for those soldiers that died later in life. So you need to make an access to information process request, and you need to prove that the person has been deceased for over 20 years. So that's just an example of some of the restrictions that happen to these record sets. We're going to talk about the different ways to search now. And the first way is usually the way everyone does it, is the global search, which is from the search tab, you're going to search all the Ancestry databases at once, except for Nova Scotia. And I wish we could be more obvious about the fact that Nova Scotia is not in the global search. We do have Nova Scotia records for birth, marriages, and deaths. However, the restriction on the agreement that we have with Ancestry, is that you need to go to the map to find the Nova Scotia records and agree to their terms and conditions. So that's another way to find out what collections are available wherever in the world. So you can also go to a collection or category search where you search all the databases within a group of databases with similar records, like censuses, passenger lists, or immigration records, directories, that kind of thing. You can look by individual databases, and this is a little bit more manageable once you think, okay, well, I'm going to look at a specific record set, like the 1911 census, that kind of thing. You can do that and find individual databases as well. And I've already told you, you can search from your family tree, but if you do, it's doing a global search, all of the databases at once. Where do you do your searches? It's from the search tab. And if you hover over the search tab, a drop down will appear, and these are the different categories. Some of them, the common ones, we've got out. So census and voters list, birth, marriage, and death, immigration and travel, public member trees, military, card catalog, and even a member directory. And so if you wanted to search by category, you would go in there. Also, the main search fields are here, but if you scrolled all the way down past the search fields, you would get to the location map. And this is where you would look for Nova Scotia or anywhere else in the world to see what databases are available. And then on the right-hand side here, we've got other collections like schools, directories, and church histories, city and area directories, tax, criminal, land and wills and land records, reference dictionaries, but obviously we couldn't put all of them out there. So we've got them on the right-hand side of the search tab. Most of us just go and fill in the fields, and some of you fill in all of the fields that you can. You can certainly pop out more fields or add events and fill all those in. My recommendation is try, a name, a date, and a place. That's it. Maybe a spouse's name, something like that. Don't feel like you have to fill in all of the fields. Only fill them in if you're not getting the search result that you're looking for. And then as you go down, you can see all of the different things that you can search by or uncheck. It's automatically going to search for all the historical records, stories and publications, family trees, and photos and maps. But if you don't want it to give you those in the search results, you might just click off some of these and go with just the historical records. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how am I going to know it's my ancestor, it's my person? And really, you have to be a bit of a detective. You have to gather the information that you already know about that family or person, and you have to think about what makes your ancestor unique from another person who has the same name, perhaps being baptized around the same time period in the same place. So names can be unique. Maybe you'll notice that your person has a middle name or a different first. Well, it's going to be the same first name, but maybe a different baptized name, and so on. And maybe the places are different, off by a little bit. Maybe events that in their lives, like maybe your guy got married and the other guy never did. Maybe he joined the military, or your guy did. And so you have to think about this sort of holistically. Think about the dates, the people in their lives. Is there a way to identify a family or a person within that family based on who's living with them or next door, that kind of thing? Look at everything you can, like occupations. Maybe that'll be the clue and the difference between two people that are looking to be the same. Religion is another clue. In Canada, we're probably one of the only countries that asks religion pretty much on every document I've seen in censuses, and they do ask your religion. And you also have to think what's going to be unique about the records that will get you the information that you're looking for. And this will come through your research guides or the book that you're looking at, no matter what country it is. And of course, you need to follow the families through in their lives. So in the documents like censuses and church registers and birth, marriage, and deaths and family trees. And I guess we all like to say, sometimes you have to follow the other name that's got the same name, the other family, and kill them off and see whether one dies, and see whether they ended up in a different place, and so on. So you have to follow them through. Searching by name is difficult. Names are misspelled. They might have a nickname. They might have been baptized with a certain name and then end up in some censuses by another name or a nickname. And so you really have to keep it together so that you don't get off the rails. They might be recorded incorrectly on the record itself, depending on who was doing the writing and who was doing the giving of the information. And they could be transcribed incorrectly. And so for all of these reasons, searching by name is a bit problematic, but there are ways that Ancestry deals with it, and I'm going to give you some hints here. So if you have the name Smith in your family, it could have been the variations on that name. It could have been Smythe, Smith with an E, Schmidt, and the list goes on. And Ancestry will look for all of those variations. However, they might be on page 10 by the time it's gone through all of the other search results. And so what we've done is we've created filters to help you comb through the possibilities and figure out which one's your ancestor. And so one of those things is for a name, the first name, as you type the name, you'll get a link underneath it. And you can choose to say exact. And sounds like similar or even initials. I personally hesitate to do anything exact off the bat because everybody misspells for all those reasons I just said in the other slide. So I would do this maybe exact and initials after the fact, after I'm not getting the results that I want. Under the last name, you're going to get these. Three options: exact, sounds like, and similar. But you won't get initials. So if you want to play around with that to see whether it surfaces up a little higher, and you're getting your search results that you need. And then again, this is the rest of the form. If you haven't heard of wildcards, this might be your new toy because wildcards are helpful with the misspellings of the name or maybe the transcription errors, or maybe you've got a name like I do that's Thorogood, and goodness knows how they spelled thorough. A star will match 0 or more characters. So I use star good. And with a date and a place, I'm not going to have to sift through very many results for that. And I have seen some really butchered spelling of Thorogood. So if you're going to use it with a first name, Anne matches Anne with an E, an A, Annabelle, Anna Marie, etc. And a question mark as a wild card matches only one character. So Anne would just give you Anne with an E and Anna with an A. The great thing is that the first letter can be a wild card. And that's usually where all the problem happens, especially with sound X, is the first letter was mistranscribed, and that letter can now be a wild card. So you might want to put a question mark or even the star in there, and hopefully you'll be successful. These are some creative search strategies, and I'm not going to go through them all for the sake of time, but I think on our Facebook page we're going to have some of these hints available. But really the best one is learn how to misspell the name. Let go of, the way you think it should be spelled, and that can't possibly be your guy because it's misspelled. Learn how to spell phonetically, the way it sounds. And I used to ask people, how do you hear this name? How would you spell it? Thorogood. And I got all kinds of different spellings. And then if I'm not finding them in a search on the first page or two, I would go back and put those phonetically spelled ways to see what pops up on the first page. You can be creative in your search strategies by using any of these methods. Think of alternate forms of the name. Betty, Beth, Betsy, and Eliza could be instead of Elizabeth. Titles of people, maybe in the document, in a census, they were known as widow, miss, madame, that kind of thing. And Mick, Mac, and O's. Anybody with those kind of names, you could try them with a space in between the second part of the name, or don't use them at all. Just for like O'Brien, leave the O out, just put Brian, and see what comes up. Location. In Canada, we've updated the place name authority, the list of all of our place names, to include county. And so, as I mentioned before, if your ancestor lived in a historical area, that area might have changed, and it might not be in the type ahead, but if they are offering you a type ahead, make sure it's the correct area and go with that one first. Then you can put in, maybe another version of where you're looking, or you might even have to go up a higher level. So you might have to go to the county, you might have to go to Ontario, that kind of thing. So that is very important. And it's also very important to put in your family tree those place names. Yeah, even if it's England, even if it's Canada, it's better than leaving it blank. Because if you do get matches, or if you do get a connection, you want to make sure it's at least in the right county or the right country. One very important area of our search form that you should pay attention to is the collection focus. And this is, excuse me, by default, usually all collections, which means it's going to return from all of the countries. However, we might not want all of the countries to be in our return list, in our results list. So you can choose another country to do your searching so it comes up to the top. However, it's sticky. So if I was looking in England and I changed it to England, the next time I go and do a search, I should pay attention to my collection focus and change it back to all collections or the other country. Now, this ability is wonderful, but it's not available on institutional versions, which means at the libraries or schools and things like that. And by the way, libraries across Canada at this time have offered library edition available to their library holders, so card holders. So it is available at home for free. So you might want to check that out. Let's talk about one of the major collections that we need to look at. And whatever I tell you about these Canadian collections, you could really apply to all of the countries that you're looking at. So civil registration are those birth, marriages, and deaths collected by the government. So this is not the church, it's by the government. And to manage expectations, you need to understand when the government started collecting those records. So for example, Ontario is 1869. But if your people came in 1820, you're not going to be able to find a birth, marriage, or death record in 1820 that you're expecting. And same with the Western provinces all came on board and started the government collection of birth, marriages, and deaths. Where you're going to see church records prior to these times and during these times is the Quebec. The Quebec records are based on church records. These are all of the records that we have online at Ancestry. And of course, you can look these up on your own through the card catalog or through the location map and see what we have. If you go to the search and you go to the category birth, marriage, and death, on the right-hand side, you will see featured data collections. And take a look at these. These are all of the other collections that are pertinent to this particular category. This one is Ontario Birth, Marriage, and Death Records. If you click on that, it's going to open up a search page that will include all of those, and give you the date ranges. So Ontario Birth, Marriage, and Death are included. In Ontario, they started collecting information in 1869, but it wasn't until after 1908 for the births that they actually added the mother's maiden name, which is a key clue to take you back further in time, is to get your the mother's maiden name. It wasn't until 1905 that they mentioned that on the marriages, and the deaths, it was 1909. So the evolution of information is useful when you've come from a big family and maybe your guy or gal wasn't born at this time or married at this time or died at this time, but maybe a younger sibling, 10 5 siblings later, maybe they were in this time period to get that key information that you could look up. This is just a quick demo on doing a global record search. So I have some basic information here. They lived in Bobcage and they had a large family. So I knew you always go backwards in time. So this is some information I already knew. You can see I've plugged in just his name and where they lived and the birth, approximately where it was. Now I put his spouse's name in, and notice I didn't put her married name in. And I put her maiden name in because that is how you should enter all of the females in on your tree. The name they were born with. Ancestry will automatically search for all of her names as she acquires them. So all of her married names, etc. So always, always, always put maiden names in to your family tree. If you don't know it, you could put her married name in the suffix field or in the blank field beside the last name, or just leave it blank until you've figured it out. So fill in those different boxes and the search results come up, and there's quite a lot of them. It's giving me these search results below in the record format, and I can see right away that there's a family tree at the very top, and it's got some great information, and it's by somebody who has a family tree that I don't know about. And man, I'm going to want to reach out to them and see what they've got to do with Hugh, and see what records are in their gallery and check out their family tree for sure. On the left-hand side, you can see the categories that you can filter down this center list here, this right-hand list, and you can go into the different categories that we have. Also, some people like to look at it in categories, and these categories are here that people like to look this way as well. So either way, you can filter by all the categories. What you can also do is filter by place and dates, some of them. And when you filter your results here, I've got here, you can also edit your search results. And this is where you might want to go back and change the focus of the collection. You might want to change from broad to more exact by sliding the little bar. When you get a search result, you're going to get the title of the collection on the left-hand side. Excuse me. And on the right-hand side, you'll get some information. And if you click on the title, you're going to get what we call the record view. So some of the information is here, and always click on the original image to view the image if possible, because probably it has more information than what we put out in the finding aid. We only put out enough to find the record, and then this is the full record that hopefully will give you more information. Now, what I've done is I've provided tips for each of the categories that I'm going to talk about, and I'm not going to go through them, but you can always go back and review this webinar and stop it at the certain spots in the video section of our Facebook page. Another type of birth, marriage, and death is through the churches. And on the right-hand side, we pulled out the Drouin collection of Drouin was a genealogist back in the day that rounded up all of the Quebec vital records or Catholic records from anywhere that had a French community. So this record collection here, we're actually going to have a webinar on searching Quebec records. But up until the 1900s, the church registers served as the civil and vital records in Quebec, and a second copy of the church records were from all the denominations were sent annually to the courthouse. So regardless of whether you were Catholic or French, you will be able to see all of the different denominations and hospitals and military records available on this massive, very popular set. So if you're Irish, came through Gros Isle and Quebec City and landed up in Montreal, they would obviously try and find a church or start a church, and so you can look up those records whether they're Protestant or Catholic. And I have some tips here for searching church records. Now the census, our Canadian censuses are obviously enumerating our country's population, and they happen every 10 years. There's a typo I just noticed in my slide here, but they go from 1851 to 1921. They come, every census, federal census is launched 92 years after the census. So I guess the next one is due in a few more years. What is so wonderful about census records is it includes the names of every resident, their country or province of birth, their age, many other details, and especially in the later censuses, like the immigration date, which can lead you to passenger lists, and birth dates, which can lead you to birth, marriage, and death records. The first census of the Dominion of Canada was taken in 1871, as it existed in 1871. As all the other provinces slowly came into Confederation, they are included in other census years. So PEI is in the 1881 census and so on. Where do you go to find them on Ancestry? You go to the search tab, census and voters lists, and then under narrow by category, you can see here the Canadian Census Collection, and including all of the years that we have in that. If you want to search all of the census collections, you can do that all in one place, which is nice. And as you scroll down, it'll show you all of the years that we have. And if it's a Western census, we include those provinces as well. And that will show you your ancestor. And I recommend you find them in every single census during their lifetime. And you will see the comings and goings and the people who maybe start them out with their parents, and then who was living beside them, and glean information about their occupations and how much money they made, and if they had insurance, and some census even asked if they had a dog, and that kind of thing, and what agricultural products they had. So the Canadian Census Collection is just a wonderful place to start. Also, the 1921 census is free, and it's our most up-to-date census, and it's really a gateway into some past records for you to get going on your family tree. These are the search tips that I have. And finally, immigration and travel is the last collection that I wanted to point out. Now, these are incoming passenger lists that are only coming into Canada. Canada does not have outgoing passenger lists. From 1865 was when they started, the government started to collect those passenger lists, to 1935. Are there passenger lists or some kind of record of people coming to Canada prior to 1865? Yes. They are few and far between, but you will find them in Ancestry, whatever we've got. And 1935, yes, they are available, not on Ancestry, but again, you would have to apply for an ATIP request through Library and Archives Canada. Actually, sorry, through the Immigration Department of Canada. You can do it online now if you're looking for after 1935. And the earliest port of Quebec is the earliest port in Canada was Port of Quebec in 1865. And in partnership with Canada, like the censuses, they were all on microfilm first. And in 1949, they were microfilmed, and then many of them were destroyed, and the censuses anyways, and we've digitized from the microfilm in 2007. The forms, like the birth, marriage, and deaths, they evolve, and the later forms are actually large. They're huge. There's 3 pages. So check if there's a second page, but even if there's a third page, by going next on your digital image. These are all of the ports that we had in Canada and their start dates and the ranges that we have on Ancestry. And it's not just immigrants that are coming to Canada, it's anybody who is coming to Canada. So you're going to find tourists and laborers and people in transit to the US or Asia. After the First World War, returning soldiers came on regular passenger lists, and as well as home children. And those home children were poor children, poverty-stricken children that were put in benevolent societies like Bernardo's. And this might be, through the passenger list, might be your first clue that your ancestor was a home child coming to Canada to be adopted on the farms, work on the farms through this program. It might say party of children and where they went, so you can investigate it further. And I've got some search tips for you here. Really, the point of these 3 collections that I've talked about is to use them in conjunction with each other. So from the census, maybe get a birth, a marriage date based on the child's first, the first child's date of birth or age. Deaths, if they don't appear in a census, you can go and look at this collection to find out more that might offer you mothers' maiden names to get them back. Census records will show you family units and people who are being born and coming in, and comings and goings of the census record, which will lead you on some census records to passenger lists. When did they come to Canada? Let's see if we can find them if they came after 1865 in those passenger lists. And once you've got those core data sets under control, you can branch out to other collections like the voters list, and they're free as well for 24 hours. They go up to the 1970s. The directories, church records, wills, land and tax records, newspapers, all of these documents are going to put flesh on the bones of your tree and give you some wonderful stories and you to get to know your ancestor through the records that you find. If you're looking for individual databases, you would go to our card catalog, and really it is a searchable listing of all of our record collections, and you can search by title or a keyword. You can display only Canadian records, or if you uncheck it, you're going to get them from all over the world. You can filter by collection category, filter by location and dates. So if you are looking for early the 1800s or 1700s, you would just click on that and see what databases we have for that time frame. Plus, over here, you can flip the view into a title by the date we updated them, the date we added the collection, and the record count. In the record counts, you know, those are usually acquired by governments, and they could be parish registers, church registers, it could be government birth, marriage, death, censuses, that kind of thing. What if Ancestry doesn't have the information? Ancestry has worked a lot of partnerships with many, many different societies, Family Search, and the governments of Canada and provincial governments, churches, genealogy societies, Some of our information is index only. So you need to look up the source information to find the original. Always try and hunt the original down, or that microfilm copy in the repository where we got it from. Online records, you might want to check out other websites. Offline records, think of public record offices, archives, libraries, government agencies. Check out your historical societies and your genealogy societies. Maybe they have information that that we don't. Maybe they've got scrapbooks. I know we did a seminar with the Ontario Ancestors / Ontario Genealogy Society, and their society's been around for years, like 60 years, and they've indexed a lot of cemeteries and scrapbooks and things like that, and they can help you find the information that you need. And nowadays we have Facebook groups that can certainly help us in our search to finding information. Finally, you might want to consider using DNA and your family tree. Our family trees are based on our ancestors, and those ancestors pass down their DNA to us and anybody else that shares that common ancestor. So if you attach your DNA result to your family tree, we're going to try and identify the common ancestor. And if we can identify it, we're going to give you a shared ancestor hint so that you can work together with that person or go and look at that person's tree to find out what records they've attached and so on. If we can't find the reason why, maybe they don't have a built-out tree, but you still are sharing that DNA, you might see a common surnames. Other helpful hints is to look at your match and their matches with you. So we call those shared matches, which may give you an indication to what side of the family you got that DNA from, but it could also hook you into another family member who also shares your DNA to their tree. Maybe they're the ones that have the tree. And you should also look at other people's trees for shared places and locations. Maybe there's a secret in the family that they lived in the same area, but you're not finding any common names. Regardless of where you are in your journey, you can always use some help. And so under our help tab, we have the support center that you can get your answers to your questions about your account, about DNA, about articles, about your family tree and starting it. We've got mobile apps that you might have questions about. We also have message boards, and people can communicate that way, and community. We have a community page, and you can even hire an expert. But if you do need some personal help, you can always call our 1-800 number. And that is all I have to offer you for this particular seminar. And I do hope you enjoyed it and I gave you some hints. And please do check out my other webinars that are in the video section of our Facebook page. Myself and my colleagues are trying to give you some really great information about searching for your family history and helping you with that. So thank you very, very much.